it's not. It's absolutely not. And it makes me super nervous. Like, while I appreciate the No Child Left Behind, I
Mm-hmm.
don't even know if that's still a thing.
Yeah.
It was a big thing for when I was in school.
Right.
Because the No Child Left Behind thing made it to where if you were special education, you didn't even touch a TOS test.
Yeah.
I never took a TOS test. I never took,
Really.
yeah. No, I was put in a room at the back of the school and we played games and watched videos and movies all day long while they were taking. I never opened a TOS book.
What do you think about that?
I would have failed anyways. It would have been a waste of time. I would not have understood. I was so far behind. I would have never understood what was in that booklet.
Mm,
I don't think we need standardized testing.
I don't think so either. Um,
It does nothing but stress our children
it's
out.
true.
It
And the
stresses our
teachers.
teachers out. Like, like it doesn't, to me, it's like it doesn't even matter who you say first. It doesn't benefit either one of them.
I, as a teacher, feel like it's a big gotcha because as a teacher, you might work at a district. The district I worked at has these amazing curriculum writers that did such a good job taking the teaks, writing ideas of lessons, and then you could either take it and go with it, kind of zhuzh it up if you wanted it to. But as a teacher, I'm responsible for teaching this lesson on this subject, giving some sort of assessment, seeing how they did, and going from there. And like I said before, you have all these different learners, right? And so I have
Yeah.
some learners that I need to hit this hard for a week. I have some that need it for a few days, and I have some that already knew this 2 years ago. And then you're going to tell them all to take the same test.
Yep.
That's so weird to me.
Yep.
And it's a little different now when you have kids with learning disabilities and IEPs and 504s. They have accommodations, right?
They do.
And so
But
they
we
might,
wouldn't need the accommodations if we didn't have the test.
that's true too. And so kids can be put in small groups. They can have it orally read to them. They can
Mhm.
have, math manipulatives or
Yes.
dictionaries and things like that.
And scratch paper
And
and this or
scratch
that.
paper,
Yes, I
but
know.
also, which I hate, and I think a lot of teachers do too, standardized testing has all moved to a computer.
Yes.
Everything's on a computer.
Yep.
And in this day and age with technology, I get the pros of and the benefits of wanting students to have something to do with technology. But if you're given a word problem, me or you given a word problem, the first thing we're going to do is ask for a piece of paper and a pencil. But if you're looking at it on a computer, me and you would probably, type it in on Google or whatever, or the calculator. And these kids are mad because they're not getting the immediate answer and it's taking time to have to write it out on paper that they just kind of skip it and click the next answer and go on. Why does it have to be on a computer? I don't understand that.
Yeah. Why do we even need the test? Like, if we are testing our children, it's like, what's the point of even testing out on the actual subject itself if we're going to be mass tested at the end?
It makes me feel like I'm not trusted as a professional,
Yep.
that my lessons, my assessments, and my data don't matter
Yep.
and it doesn't count.
Yeah.
Because all they look at the end of the year is these dumb standardized test scores, star if you're third grade and older, or map if not. And it's like, but what about everything else they did? And I'm big at looking at growth. So maybe they got a 2 on the test at the beginning of the year and they got a 15 at the end of the year. Oh my gosh, that's fantastic. Did they pass? No. So they're learning. It shows that they're understanding it and they're grasping it. But
Yeah.
all they're seeing is that 15, and that's not good.
It just breaks my heart.
It does.
It breaks my heart and it makes me frustrated and it makes me like there's so many things that need to be advocated for. And to that advocation, like our girls went through a divorce, and so I can only imagine what that did to them curriculum wise.
Mm-hmm.
And I can only imagine that's a huge change. It's a
Oh,
huge
yeah.
heartbreak. It's a huge mind shift. Like, and I wasn't naive to the fact that it was going to affect their school. I
Right.
mean, you're going 7 days with one parenting style and you're switching 7 days to another parenting style. And regardless of who has the final education choices and decisions, 7 days at a time, your world is shifting.
Mm-hmm.
And you got to take these kids' home lives into situations.
Oh, yeah.
And so when I go into the school year and we do meet the teacher, I'm upfront with them.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, our kid's a little unique. They're going to know who they go home with. They are in charge of who they go home with because 7 days at a time or 5 days at a time for them, it's switching during the school year. They know their schedule. Let them tell you where they go.
Mm-hmm.
Don't call me in a panic. They manage it. and they're good with it.
Yeah.
And so giving our children that power to speak up and say to the teacher, no, I know where I go. It's fine. This
Mhm.
today I'm after school or I'm not after school this week, whatever it is. But I also tell the teacher, like, look, we are 7 on, 7 off. She's a 50-50 household. Everything needs to come home in twos. Like, that's something that I'm like very upfront with because I feel like why not educate your teacher so she knows what's going on at home?
Mhm.
I don't, is that a good thing? Is that a
It's
bad thing?
absolutely a good thing. I'm not asking for every dirty detail in your life, right? But things like knowing, hey, is something going on? Even if
Mm-hmm.
it's especially honestly, if it's in the middle of the year, if I notice that the kid starts acting out or they're not getting their work done or their just behavior is completely different, first thing I'm going to do is contact the parent. Hey, is something going on that I need to know about? And they might say, yeah, we're just having some family problems. Totally understandable. I don't need to know more than that.
Yeah.
If I can support you in any way, let me know.
Mm-hmm.
Because I think as teachers, when you work with children, you need so much patience and grace because most of the time, if something's going on at home, it's nothing that they can fix. And it's not, and a lot of times they don't even have the mental tools to handle it. And they're big feelings and they're little people. And this is all from, a frame of reference of elementary. And whatever I can do to help in that moment, I will. And I'm the type of teacher who, if I know that a kid is switching between parents and they get home late on Sunday because dad lives far away and they're snoozing in the morning, I'm gonna let them sleep
Mm-hmm.
because they're a child and that's what they need in that moment. And if they feel safe enough in my classroom that they can feel like they can close their eyes for 10, 15 minutes, that makes me feel good.
Yeah.
So it all goes back to doing what's best for students. If they get home and they cannot do their homework because mom and dad are fighting, maybe we look at a few problems together when the other kids are doing another assignment, just so I can make sure they know what's going on.
Yeah.
But you can't get mad if, as a teacher, they come back and they don't have their homework finished or they forgot their backpack and
Yeah.
this and that. I
Yeah.
mean,
Well, and to that backpack thing, I'm thinking about like I so our district, we've got the Chromebooks.
mm-hmm,
Pretty much I think just about every district now is in a Chromebook situation.
yeah.
So I got a drop zone is what I call it. And so I've got the Chromebook, charging station for them, a place for them to hang up backpacks. But the reason I did that was because the kids were forgetting to charge their Chromebooks because they were going into
Yeah.
their rooms.
Yeah.
But the teachers are so stressed out about these Chromebooks that my girls were getting laps on the recess playground because their Chromebooks were not charged.
Yeah.
And I'm like, so then I was like, okay, but that means they have to remember to take their charger from one house to another house. I was like,
Mm-hmm.
okay, let me just buy another charger. And then it was like, and so then we had to create like a space for them to actually charge it. Like
Mm-hmm.
my kids were running laps on the playground because
Yeah.
a device, talk about like serious PTSD inducing stress
Yeah.
at a very young age to be like, I gotta plug it in. I gotta plug in my, like, and
Mm-hmm.
even now my 13-year-old's like, I gotta plug my phone in. And I'm like, it's okay.
Yeah.
Your phone can die. It's fine.
Mm-hmm.
But obviously, we're a different era. Like, I grew up with
Right.
not a phone at
Sure.
this age. So, it's just that to me is another thing where I'm just like, dude, you're causing PTSD because you're making them run
Yeah.
laps because they needed to plug in a device.
And I get it as a teacher because I'm not perfect. I've gotten upset when a kid comes in and their Chromebook's dead and
Yeah.
we have a test to take that morning and I'm like, "What the heck? Why didn't you do it?" I've been there. I've
Yeah.
gotten mad. And it's all about control, right? I
Hmm.
couldn't control the fact that they didn't charge their Chromebook last night for whatever reason. So
Yeah.
I'm mad right now. So I'm going to tell you to walk laps at recess because it's what I can do and what I can control in this
Hmm.
moment. And the teacher is probably upset because there's an assignment that they had to do on the Chromebook
Hmm.
because somebody above them said they had to do this assignment and somebody above them told them to tell them. I mean, like I said, it all trickles down and it ends up stressing these babies because that's what they are.
Hmm.
These babies out for absolutely the smallest thing.
Hmm.
And unfortunately, life's just going to get so much harder. And when you're 7 years old, it doesn't need to be that hard right now.
Mm-mm.
It just doesn't. It's
Mm-mm.
not worth it.
No, it's not. It's not at all. And I'm watching so many of these TikTok teachers who have like the care closets and, you know, and I don't know if you know, like what for the people who don't know what a care closet is, it's basically a closet that's got resources for children in it.
Mhm.
We're talking hairbrushes, hair ties, deodorant, toothbrush, toothpaste, Sometimes it's meals that they can take home, like,
Mhm.
ravioli or whatever,
Mhm.
ramen. Some of it's laundry detergent, lip balm, things like that. That's like, and these teachers have the TikTok following to be able to stock this
Mhm.
closet. But there's also teachers out there who don't have the TikTok following
Nope.
who are stocking resources for their kids.
That'd be most teachers, I would say.
Yeah.
And I've done that a lot, and thankfully, I've had backing from my husband's jobs have donated before. It's a tax write off, which is great for them, but it works out for me because I get stuff for my kids. And, the meals have been great. I had a little girl one time. This is when I taught first grade.
Mhm.
We were doing a lesson on money.
Mhm.
And so I had brought in some little paper kids' menus from a restaurant and talked about how everything costs different. And I had an assignment where I said, okay, let's say you have $10 for dinner. What are you going to order?
Mhm.
And this little girl raised her hand and she's like, I don't understand. And I said, okay, well, if you went to a restaurant to get dinner, what would you order from this menu? And she said, what's dinner? And I said, it's the meal you eat at night, like when you go home after school. She had no idea what I was talking about because she didn't have a
Wow.
meal when she got home. So she had breakfast at school and
And
lunch
lunch
at
at school.
school and had no concept of what a dinner was.
Wow.
And
And we're
so,
not in a poverty stricken
no, we're not.
territory.
Mm-mm.
I mean, it's not like we're in the Appalachian Mountains,
Mm-hmm.
Like everybody thinks of poverty being so far away.
And you're expecting that kid to take a test on word problems and myths and nonfiction text features, and she's got bigger fish to fry.
Yeah.
So that was one,
You were like, okay, so how can I put out a survey to figure out
mm-hmm.
what are they struggling or what are they not getting?
And I think that, as a teacher, who students have free and reduced lunch and you kind of know things like that, but it's hard to know just how bad it is.
Mhm.
And that was one of the situations where I didn't know that it was that much of an issue. And so, started, sending home Lunchables, Uncrustables, all kinds
Mhm.
of things, fruit, chips, just whenever I could.
Yeah. And
And
I'm sure she took it home and just I'm sure you made an impact on her.
I hope so. And it's one of the ones you think about, well, what's she doing over spring break? What's she doing over Christmas break?
Yeah.
She gets 2 out of 3 meals at school. What's
Yeah.
happening over summer?
Yeah.
And so I'm thankful that post COVID, you've seen more districts starting to do the free lunches over the summer.
Mhm.
I think that's something positive that came out of it.
Mhm.
I really wish that every child got free breakfast and lunch at school. I think that should be a thing that happened always.
Our district did, I think, for 2 or 3 years
Uh
after
huh.
COVID, our
Mm hmm.
district did. And our kids were okay with
Oh,
it.
yeah. Ours did it too. And I just think every child should have a free meal at school. I just think that's
Honestly.
not even a
Well, and
argument to make.
it's not. And to that, it's like that's just one it's expensive. So our lunch is $3 a student.
Mm hmm.
And then on to that, every year we have to pay $50 for them to have a Chromebook access fee.
Yeah.
And then if they damage the Chromebook, that's on us as parents to replace
Mm
or
hmm.
fix through
Mm hmm.
the technology department. Like, I thought this was public school. Respectfully. Like, I I know that it's not a big deal for me and I can pay for it, but
Yeah.
I always go back to think about the parents who aren't going to speak up and say, "Hey, I need help," because they're fearful that the district is going to call somebody.
Mm hmm.
They're fearful that the district's going to turn them in for not being able to care for their child.
Yeah.
Like, or they're fearful the district's going to turn them in because they're not a legal citizen.
Yeah.
And so like our district in here in Burleson recently made it to where you had to have an ID. You couldn't just like go on campus anymore. They've done a lot more security
Mm hmm.
restrictions because of everything that's happened in the past as far as, the violence and everything else. So they made it to where you had to register your driver's license. Well, okay, well, not every parent has a driver's
Mm hmm.
license to get on campus. So now you've just restricted access based off of a privilege of having a driver's license. That's not okay.
I think and you'd probably agree, there needs to be some form of safety, right? We
Yes.
can't just let anybody in the
Right.
building. But that is something that I've seen as a teacher that I don't think everyone realizes is an issue. And it's different in every district. I've taught in a few districts, and in some it's not a big issue, and in some it's a huge, massive issue that when they come to register their kid, they maybe don't have a social security card. They
Yes.
maybe don't have a driver's license, and there's different steps you have to take, or the front
Yes.
office has to take
Yes.
when they're registering a kid, because the kid should still get access to public education.
Yes.
But there's a big detriment to families that are not
Legal.
normal, legal. I
Yeah.
mean, the ideal American dream family who's here, where both mom and dad have a job, both mom and dad have a license, and
Yeah. Yeah. And just because, like, for me and I'm not trying to get into politics of this. I'm
sure.
just saying that, like, and move, yeah, get comfortable. Like, as a parent, I don't think you should have to be like, oh, I can't go to the school and have lunch with my kid because I don't have a driver's license.
Right.
Oh, I can't go to open house because I don't have a driver's license. What did you say, honey? Speak up. Oh, you can't hear me? Barely? Really? Oh. I'm like, I don't understand what you're talking about. Um, yeah, so you cut out all my volume in my head. I need a little bit more. That's good. I'm good. You could probably even turn me down just a hair now. It's like it's a delayed turn up. That's good. So like I don't like that. It's not fair. It's not fair that you've reduced access to my child because of my status in the United States government.
Yeah.
Not fair.
I've lost all volume.
Will you
I
give
hear
her some?
nothing.
How about now?
What'd you do?
Why you gotta check with stuff?
Okay, I'm back.
Okay, good. Um, yeah. And that was one of the things that I was like, I just automatically go to the parents that don't have my experience
Sure.
or that have my privilege. And I'm well aware that some of the things that I have are privilege.
Mm-hmm.
And to think that our kids aren't privileged is asinine.
Yeah. And not many parents think that way, unfortunately.
Really.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And I know that we're blessed to be able to afford to live in a nice district
Mm-hmm.
because living in a nice district comes at a cost.
Yes, it
Your
does.
rent is higher, your taxes are higher. Everything in a nice school district is higher.
Mm-hmm.
You're stupid to think that it's not. It is a privilege to live in a nice school district.
Mm-hmm.
And the nice school district comes with the fact that we have so many different levels of elementary. Like, let's just start with that. We have your standard elementary.
Mm-hmm.
We have your high select elementary. We have your STEAM elementary. We have, and I think there's one other one, but we've got so many different levels of just elementary.
Yeah.
And then, okay, so if you went to STEAM elementary, you now have an accelerated entry point to STEAM middle school. And then you get past middle school. So you've got your STEAM, for instance, and then you've got your traditional. But now let's get to high school. We've got College Gate, we've got coding, we've got your traditional, and then we've got your accelerated, I'm done, get me the hell out of here program. Like, we've got so many different levels of, like, not every district is that way.
And can you imagine how much stress that is on a child to decide what they want to do before they're even an adult? You're
True.
asking a kid who's 10 years old what path they want to take? What?
Yeah.
There's 10 years old kids that are 10, they might not even know what they're doing tomorrow. And you're asking them what you want their school career and future career to look like? That's so weird to me.
Oh God, yeah. Like, I couldn't have answered that question, and that actually stressed me out
Mm-hmm.
in high school because I was like, I don't know what I want to be, and you keep telling me that I should know what I want to be, but obviously I can't do college because y'all have told me I'm slow.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know what to do. Like, you're just standing there in the crowd, like, I don't know what to do with my hands. Like, and a lot of these kids don't go anywhere.
Mm-mm.
Like, and it all starts in elementary
It
school.
does. And as an elementary teacher, it was so humbling. I loved it, but I just felt it was such an important job. And I always, I always sent Christmas cards to my parents. And at the end of the year, I would send a card thanking them for trusting me because it's a lot to drop off your kid and have them spend time with an adult all day long who is supposed to take care of their physical and mental needs and their education from this time to this time. And I think people either forget or just don't realize how foundational elementary school is. And then these people up in Austin or Washington or wherever just cramming kids in these rooms with these way overworked, underpaid teachers. And it's just not working for anybody. And I'm
Mm-mm.
worried about these kids who have differences, whether it be, academically, behaviorally, any type of difference that it might be overlooked right now, that they're not getting the resources they need. What's going to happen in 10, 15, 20 years?
Right. And I look at my youngest, Harley, COVID, like her kindergarten year got shut off.
Mm-hmm.
She didn't get the full kindergarten experience.
Mm-mm.
It was cut off. Like at, I think it was what, a week prior to spring break or something. And then we just never went back.
Yeah.
And they were like, and everybody's like, I'm not sending my kid to school in a mask. And I was like, that's all you need? Done.
Yeah.
Like, that's all you need, go for it. Like,
Yeah.
I knew how important it was that she at least get something. I mean, we were going into first grade. Like,
Mm-hmm.
and now she's going into fourth grade. And I feel like they're so, like,
Mm-hmm.
that grade in particularly right now going into fourth grade,
Yes.
I feel for these teachers.
So those were my babies last year. Shout out if you're listening. I love you so much. They were COVID kinder babies. And
Mm-hmm.
so there were some that didn't know how to hold a pair of scissors.
Wow.
There were some that still held crayons and pencils incorrectly.
Mm.
Um, and then just having them get used to sitting next to another child and you don't have to touch them. And just because they have a cool sparkly pencil on their desk doesn't mean you get to take it and play with it. Because those were the social skills that they were supposed to be learning in kinder and first grade, and they missed out on it. They didn't have any siblings by themselves in a room. They didn't know what it was like to learn with other kids fidgeting or talking or having cooler school supplies than you do,
Mm-hmm.
and having to retrain that, but also get you ready to take this crazy test.
Yeah.
What the heck? I mean, there's only so much time in a school day, and we're so focused on getting them ready for a test that we're forgetting. Hey, we're also trying to make them good humans too. And to me, that's a little bit more important than to be a good test taker.
Yeah.
And I would rather take the time of, hey, what do you really do if you see something you want and it's not yours? What do you do if somebody pokes you or looks at you weird? I mean, because you have kids who immediately run up to the teacher. Oh my God, she's looking at me weird. And then you have kids who just start throwing hands because they don't know what else to do. And there's no middle ground.
Yeah.
And yes, that's something that they should be taught at home, but I can't control what's being taught at home.
Oh.
I can control what's being taught in the classroom. But with the amount of teaks that I'm required to teach in a day, there's not always time to go back and do those social skills. And that kind of brings me to the next point of the amount that they want us to teach in the, 180, whatever it is, school days is truly unrealistic. It's just not possible to teach as a teacher, teach it, and for a child to master it.
What do you feel about going to a year-round school?
As a teacher, it terrifies me.
Right.
Because I think that break is necessary. But what I think it needs to come down to is they really need to reevaluate these teaks and think about, is this appropriate for this grade level? Number one, because it's changed so much that things that maybe me and you learned in fifth and sixth grade is now being learned in second and third. And
Holy
that's
shit.
so crazy to me.
Yeah.
Like, let me give you an example. One of the hardest things all of my kids struggled with was like two-step word problems. So like Emily goes to the store with this much money and she buys this and this and this. And then she goes to the bank and gets this much money. Like there's all these steps they have to take.
Yeah.
That's a lot And when you think about, you still got kids trying to figure out one step word problem. She has $200. She spends this much money. How much is left? And now you've got to move into, oh, but she also does this and this
What's
and
the
this.
point of a word problem? What's the point of learning the word problem? How many times do you go out into the world and read a word problem that you need to solve?
I think it's about taking steps to problem solve. I think that's what it comes down to.
I wonder if there's other ways to teach that.
Probably. I mean, I think that there's a validity in teaching math fluency and to be able to, when you think about just adding and subtracting one digit numbers
Oh, I get that
as
too.
an adult, like
Yeah.
that's really beneficial. And when you get up to higher numbers, kind of, you might start needing a calculator after that. Um, the word problems are hard, but it all comes down to taking steps to figure out what do I need to do first and then next and then last. But I agree with you. There's probably a better way to do it that's not so confusing to a child.
Yeah. And to that, word problems, like I never realized how much reading affected the rest of your learning.
Oh, a
If
hundred percent.
and I didn't know this until we had Hannah diagnosed with the dyslexia issue. But like, yeah, it was like she was failing everything.
Mm-hmm.
And it was because like, oh yeah, science is reading. Oh yeah, social studies is reading. Oh
Yeah.
yeah, math is reading.
Mm-hmm.
And it was like, no wonder she's having such a hard issue.
Mm-hmm.
Every education across the board. And it was like once we started getting her assistance in the dyslexia, it was like she loves social studies now. And I was like,
That's great.
oh, okay, that makes sense.
Yeah.
And parents, I don't think understand that if you struggle, he's so cute. If you don't, if you struggle with reading, it's going to affect
Everything.
all of it.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely all of it.
Mm-hmm.
It blows my mind. I'm so grateful that I was a special education student because I don't think I would have advocated as hard for my child, and I wouldn't have known how to advocate for my child and the right way to phrase things to make certain things more important.
Mm-hmm.
Because in the education world, in dealing with an admin, you've got to phrase things a very particular way in order to get what you need.
100%. It's and what's interesting is I've had parents who were in either a special ed program or had some sort of disability of their own, and they're fearful of their child being put into that as well because it's so different. So I had a mom who just, oh my gosh, she did not want her kid tested for SPED. She just refused. She just couldn't take it. And, no matter how much I talked to her, the specialist, the principal talked to her, she just refused. And so I finally flat out asked her, what's your deal? Why do you not want your kid to get help?
Yeah.
And she said, because I was bullied on the short bus. I don't want her bullied on the short bus.
Yeah.
You don't have a short bus. That's not a thing.
Oh, I was bullied on the bus and it was your brother.
I believe that. I was bullied by my brother too. I love him so much, but I was too. It's okay. But it's the fact that she thought because she's going to get these services, she's going to have different transportation. And that wasn't even a thing that was going to happen anyway.
No, but I'm sure back in her time it was.
Mm-hmm. So I think that there's benefits, but there's also detriments to if you're a parent who had some sort of different education because you might be fearful that they're going to have the same problems that you did.
Yeah. Well, okay. And so there is a teacher's podcast who went viral
Mm-hmm.
for kind of the wrong reasons. But they went viral because he's clicking things. They went viral because they were talking about how basically if you've got a child or a student who's special education, you pull them into that meeting and you basically trash the student in front of the student. And I'm like, yeah. Like they bring the kid into the meetings, the parents there, the teachers, this board of directors, if you will, is
Yeah.
in there and they're talking. And it's like, oh, well, this student sucks at this and they suck at this and they suck at this and they suck at this. And it's like basically like and I was like, and I didn't see anything wrong with the podcast, but these teachers were like, how dare you do that? Like, in the way that the teachers phrased it was like, yeah, you basically just go in and you talk trash about the kid and the kid's there. Like, and a kid on an IEP, that's about the only time you really get to be like, dude, this kid sucks on whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, I just was like, yeah, that's how it is. Like, that's how you get a student help is you say they suck at this. The world who watched that podcast, like, they got canceled because of it. And I'm like, obviously you were never special education and don't understand that, yeah, that happens.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm sorry that you think that these teachers speaking up is a bad thing, but that's legit what happens. And if you've never had a child experience that, good for you. But it legit happens.
And it's hard as the teacher to tell a parent who, their child is perfect in their eyes. Obviously,
Absolutely.
I'm a parent, my kid's perfect. It's hard to let them know, "Hey, they're struggling and this
Mhm.
is what's going on." And
Mhm.
I've only had one experience where the kiddo was in the room, um, but he was very mature and also understood where he struggled, so it wasn't a shock to him at all. Um, and I'm sure other teachers would agree with this. You also have to come in with what they're good at,
Oh yeah.
and it could be absolutely anything. I've
Yeah.
She drew a butterfly yesterday, and it was the most beautiful butterfly I've ever seen in my entire life. Oh my gosh, you got to
Yeah.
have something.
Yeah.
But I remember I was talking to a kid one on one time, and he said, "I just don't understand what I don't understand," and it just broke my heart because I got it. You don't understand what you don't understand.
Yep.
And it's sad to be 8, 9, 10 years old and realize that. And yeah, those meetings can be great and they can be brutal because it's hard to tell a parent that their kid needs help. And
Mhm.
as long as the parent is very understanding that, hey, I'm doing this because I love your kids so much that I want them to get what they need, as long as you come at it from that way, it shouldn't be as bad.
Yeah.
But parents understandably get defensive, and
I
I
get
I
it.
totally get that.
Yep.
And I have parents who flat out refuse. No, they don't need help. They're totally fine. And after that, there's really not much I can do. But
No, I know. But and it's hard too because it's like I think that so many people need to look at y'all as the experts.
yeah,
They need to look at you guys as the expert in your child, in that child's
mm-hmm,
learning.
mm-hmm,
You are the paid professional. And if you are seeing something, open your mind as a parent and accept what that paid professional is telling you.
mm-hmm.
It's no different than having a doctor's appointment and going and asking the doctor what's wrong with my knee.
It's right.
It's
Mm-hmm,
no different, except it's a parent teacher conference and they're telling you, hey, this is what I'm seeing. And they're probably seeing it before it's actually even an actual big thing.
right. Especially in elementary.
Yeah.
And I think it all points back to the lack of respect for teachers.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you go to a doctor, it doesn't matter who the doctor is. It doesn't matter how long they've been practicing. You're a
Mm-mm.
doctor. I'm going to believe and trust and respect what you have to say.
Mm-hmm.
But with teachers, oh, they work with kids. So I'm still a professional.
Yeah.
I worked hard to do this.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot more to teaching than just being with little kids all day.
Yeah.
And
I'm not a babysitter.
no, 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 no.
I am not babysitting.
It just so happens that my hours of work line up with your hours of work. And so your child can be with me at work.
Mm-hmm.
It just so happens that that's a thing.
Yeah. And it blows my mind and it makes me feel so bad for the education system and the teachers. And with AI coming out, I just wonder what's going to change.
Oh, that's a good question. I think about that too. I think that when I think about how much data teachers have to do, when you've got kids who are all these different learners, you constantly have to back up and prove that you're a teacher, which I hate. That was a big thing.
I'm sorry, what?
Okay, hold on. I didn't drink water.
You have to prove that you're a teacher?
Every day. Every day. So,
Like you have to prove that you taught something or
mhm. So when you have students in your classroom, which is most classrooms, students who have an IEP, students who are on a 504, students who are what we call on watch for an IEP or 504, you have to document exactly what you did to help that child outside of your normal lesson, how they did, how often you do it, and what the result was every day for every kid. And when you show up to a 504 or IEP meeting and you don't have that documentation, a lot of times they won't even listen to what you have to say.
so what do we do?
Trust that teachers know what they're doing.
Amen. Amen.
Trust that.
He said time out.
Oh, good, because my foot's